In the joy of choosing a new home at a real estate agency, I was taken aback when the agent I met for the first time abruptly said, "You should divorce your husband right now." I was surprised and puzzled, wondering how much they knew about me and my husband. Despite being taken aback by the rude remark, I had no idea what was to unfold next. While everyone around me was getting married and building families, I was immersed in my work, enjoying my single life. As I approached my 30s, I took on more responsible roles at work and felt increasingly fulfilled. One day, I met my current husband at a bar. Though meeting at a bar might sound like a one-night encounter to many, my husband was very sincere, and we developed a good relationship over several dates. We got along well, and I was drawn to his kindness, considering marriage within a year. I had been working hard for a long time and earned more than men of my age. Meanwhile, my husband earned less than the average salary. I had heard that if a husband earns less than his wife, it could strain the marriage. But my husband didn't mind the income difference and suggested he would take care of all the household chores. I was grateful for this arrangement, as it allowed me to continue focusing on my work. We didn't have a wedding ceremony. My husband's parents had passed away, and he had little connection with his relatives. So we just filed the marriage registration without a ceremony. Our current home was originally my apartment, which my husband moved into. It felt too big for one person, but just right for two, although a bit cramped. So we thought of buying our own home, considering we hadn't spent on a wedding or a honeymoon. My husband was concerned that his income alone wouldn't suffice for a mortgage. When I suggested, the idea that a house must be in the husband's name is outdated. How about we buy it in my name if you have no objection? My husband said he had no issues with that. So we agreed to purchase the house in my name, and I would arrange the mortgage, which made the conversation go smoothly. We decided to consult a real estate agency once we had saved a certain amount of money and worked together to save up to our target amount. We discussed and agreed on this plan. My husband, earning less, relied more on me for the purchase funds, but in return, he promised to take on more household chores. Indeed, with him handling most chores, I could focus on work more than when I was single. It was like going back to my student days when I left everything to my mother, sometimes not helping at all with household tasks. I never took my husband's contributions for granted and always expressed gratitude, as I knew well the challenges of household work from my single days. Freedom is ample in a single life, but with a family, free time is scarce. I thought I was doing my part, but at some point my husband's attitude changed. I couldn't pinpoint the cause. One day, while I was off work and planned to cook dinner, I was startled by my husband suddenly banging on the table. My husband scolded, "Food! I'm starving to death! Hey, you're my wife. At least do some household chores properly. I work too. I'm not just a junior employee anymore." I've started accepting overtime work I used to refuse for household reasons. Now, you should do the course. My husband confronted me as if to vent all his pent-up frustration. He complained about everything, from the dinner being bland to not liking the food, to the bath water temperature being different from usual. He found fault in nearly everything. I thought I had shown due respect for his household work, but maybe I hadn't understood anything at all. Confused by his sudden change and irritational words, I didn't know what to do. As I was pondering, he suddenly hugged me from behind. I was further unsettled by his warmth, thinking he was furious, but then he returned to his usual self. Sorry, I went too far. You're doing your best. I've been selfish. Work has been entrusting me with more since I started being appreciated there. But having said I'd do the household work, I couldn't say I couldn't anymore. Plus, if I work harder, it'll reduce your burden for our home plan. I've been thinking a lot. He explained the situation to me. I understood his situation. Reflecting that I had been too reliant on my husband's words about household chores, we discussed and agreed to share the chores when both of us had the time. However, this new promise was only kept for a few days. As my husband's work hours extended due to overtime, he spent less time at home. Moreover, he increasingly complained about anything I did around the house. During that time, he would behave rudely, saying things like, "You should be able to prepare dinner by the time I get home," and "I'm tired. Join me for a drink to ease my labor." Then, he would suddenly change his attitude and apologize, making me wonder if he was emotionally unstable. I thought maybe the goal of buying a home was putting too much pressure on him. I pondered the cause of my husband's irritation. While trying to be considerate, I attempted to find a reason, but he dismissed all my guesses. Believing that buying a home wasn't pressuring him, I decided to think he was working hard towards our mutual goal. I resolved to believe that if I worked harder at my job and course, he would return to being the kind husband he was initially. While minding his moods, I wondered if he was reluctantly handling all the household chores and if there was something I could do to help. We lived together with me being cautious every day. He would return to his calm and kind self at times, but any expression of dissatisfaction would trigger him to become stern or create a hostile atmosphere. Though he never hit me, his harsh words and overt ignoring started turning my anxiety into fear. Because of his constant complaints, I gradually started neglecting the household chores. When I said, "I'm tired and need a rest," he would yell that the responsibilities of work are entirely different for men and women. I was told from the start that household chores are a woman's responsibility, leading to days when I could not find peace of mind, even at home. At that point, We were just a little short of the largest amount we had set. I thought that once we got our own home, each having our own space, our minds would settle. Living in a small apartment with no space for solitude, I convinced myself that not responding to my husband's unreasonable complaints was the right thing. With the next bonus, we would finally reach our goal amount. Desperate to escape this stressful environment, I decided to put my entire bonus towards the new home. In the end, it was almost entirely me who had saved up to this point. However, I decided not to mention this, as it was with my husband's cooperation. I intended to fully consider my husband's opinion in purchasing our home. As we neared our target amount, we started looking for land together and quickly found a great location. My husband agreed, so we proceeded with the contract. During the negotiation, everything went smoothly with the agent, discussing budget, loan, and ownership. However, during these smooth proceedings, the agent said, "I will step out for a moment. My supervisor will continue to assist you," and left the seat. I thought the more complex issues would indeed be handled by the supervisor. Well, these things happen, I thought. Then the supervisor who came in said, "I understand the loan and ownership will be in your name only, as is an individual contract. Even for couples, we'll proceed with the paperwork and confirmation in another room. Sorry, but the previous agent is waiting at that seat over there, so please move there." I was the only one led away. Given the strict handling of personal information these days, I thought maybe they needed to be careful, even with married couples. As instructed, I moved to the seat where the previous agent was waiting. Immediately, the agent said, "Let's proceed with the specific in the private room," and led the way. Entering the room as prompted, the agent, leaning forward, suddenly said, "You should divorce your husband immediately. If you don't, you will be unhappy." I thought, what an absurd thing to say to someone I met today. I was about to say, "That's none of your concern, right?" But the agent continued without waiting for my reply. "I'm afraid, but please leave through the back door and take a taxi to the city hall." Confused by the detailed instructions, I couldn't just silently comply. Why do I have to be told such things by someone I've just met? It's rude. What do you mean? Call the supervisor you mentioned earlier. I will report this. I stood up to leave the room, but the agent stopped me. "I'm sorry for the lack of explanation. Please, calm down and listen to what I have to say. I know I'm being rude, but we must hurry. There's no time." With a serious expression, the agent implored me. The agent quietly urged me to look at an image displayed on the smartphone screen. There, I saw a list of faces of wanted individuals, and one of them looked strikingly similar to my husband. The image also detailed the person's features, name, and age. There were even simulated sketches with variations like a bearded version and one with long hair. However, the name listed there was different from my husband's. The difference was not complete. It was just one character difference. But when pronounced, the names sounded quite similar. How should I put it? It was a difference hard to discern, like mistaking B or V in speech. A subtle difference that could easily be misunderstood without writing it down. Looking at the photo, I thought it was too close to simply dismiss as a mere resemblance. I understand how you feel. Anyone would be bewildered if suddenly shown something like this. Sensing my confusion, the agent began to explain in detail. It turns out that the agent's family had many police connections, and their father is still an active detective. The agent had wanted to become a police officer, but due to various circumstances, it didn't happen. Now, let's memorize the features of individuals on wanted posters, hoping to help society in their own way. They mentioned that cooperating with the police could ensure safety and briefly showed a softer expression before returning to a more serious demeanor. The agent chose a customer service job because it allowed them to naturally interact with people. They said they felt something the moment my husband and I entered the store, prompting them to approach us. Indeed, they greeted us right after we entered the store, and they seemed friendly and approachable, making it easy to discuss our home plans. I indeed felt relieved having them as our agents, feeling comfortable moving forward with the arrangement. The agent shared that they had been verifying my husband's identity while watching us, also trying to figure out what my relationship with him was. While listening to us, they wondered if I was unknowingly married to the man on the wanted poster, not a complicit accomplice, and consulted their supervisor about it. The supervisor, talking with my husband, was aware of the situation and was buying time. However, they explained that we needed to hurry, as it would be problematic if he became suspicious. I understood the urgency. I compared the wanted poster with the face of my husband, whom I was so used to seeing. It was him, although the overall vibe was different. The area around the eyes was the same. I've heard that no matter how much someone changes their face through surgery, their eyes and ears remain the same. The shape of the ears was also similar, and having spent so much time together, I clearly remembered a faint mole on his earlobe. With certainty, I nodded and was instructed to exit through the back door. I was told that I would find a taxi easily on the main street and proceed with the divorce proceedings as soon as I reached the city hall. I thanked them and quickly left through the back door. What happened next is based on what I was told. The agent who helped me escape immediately called the police after confirming I had left through the back door. The police arrived at the shop without sounding their sirens about 10 minutes after the call. However, my fugitive husband sensed something odd and tried to escape just before the police arrived. Though the police hadn't entered the shop yet, They had already set up a perimeter outside. My husband, encountering the police trying to enter, resisted but stood no chance in a scuffle against trained officers. As a result, he was apprehended and taken to the police station, where fingerprint verification confirmed he was a wanted fugitive. Realizing he couldn't escape or deceive any longer, my husband resigned himself and cooperated honestly with the investigation. The name he had been using while on the run was an alias, and he had used it to approach and marry me. He thought living normally amidst the hustle and bustle of the city would make it harder to get caught, rather than skulking around. Furthermore, a marriage registration under a false name would not be accepted. My husband had said, "I'll submit it for us since you're busy." But in reality, it was never filed. Therefore, my husband and I were not legally married, and I was not a married woman. Keeping my maiden name was more convenient for work. I only used his surname for interactions with neighbors. The reason I was chosen as a spouse was because of my stable income and the fact that I was not domesticated. Indeed, work was my priority, and I hadn't even bothered to check if he had filed the marriage registration. It's natural to assume that someone uninterested in such matters wouldn't have any interest in the fugitive either. Later, it became known that my husband had another woman he was seeing besides me. The mistress, like me, had not realized that my husband was a wanted criminal, making her another victim. It seemed that the changes in my husband's behavior were due to this woman, and he had been intimidating me because he was anxious about his affair being discovered. If he was afraid of getting caught, he shouldn't have cheated in the first place. My husband was quite a womanizer and had deceived other women without their knowledge. Moreover, he wasn't employed at the company he claimed to work for. It seems he was earning money through day labor and other part-time jobs. The mistress also found out about this and was reportedly hysterical with the investigating officer who told her. I can understand her feelings, even though she was unaware. She might have inadvertently aided his escape. As insignificant as my husband turned out to be, it appeared he was serious about having a home with me. Thus, the money we had saved together was not taken by him and remained in full. This is merely my speculation, but dealing with rental contracts and renewals is troublesome. Recently, many places only accept identity documents with a photo. For a fugitive, acquiring such identification is difficult. If that's the case, owning a home would avoid these issues. Leaving the ownership and mortgage to his wife was probably part of his plan, considering a fugitive can't get a mortgage or rent on his own. My husband's sentence will inevitably be long. Not only did he flee, but he may also have committed more crimes during his escape, and he had deceived both me and his mistress. Although the real estate agent helped me escape, and it was discovered we weren't legally married. I was still questioned multiple times due to our cohabitation and the support I provided to my husband. Answering questions and undergoing neighborhood inquiries, I was ultimately not found to have conspired or assisted in his escape. I was more of a victim used as a cover for his fugitive life. Being exonerated, I decided to move out of the apartment I shared with the fugitive and start a new life elsewhere. Initially, I had chosen a piece of land together with a man I believed to be my husband, but after the incident, I felt that land had bad luck and decided to look for a different one. The agents who helped me escape left a strong impression, and I felt I could trust and rely on them. Without hesitation, I nominated that agent, and with a fresh start, decided to discuss a new property with them. As we talked about budget, loans, and interior design, we began to share personal stories. Surprisingly, we discovered that our hobbies and tastes were quite similar. Our relationship was gradually becoming more than just client and agent, a little closer and more personal. Since there is mutual awareness as members of the opposite sex, I think there might be a possibility of becoming life partners. Even though I had a bad experience being used by a strange man, thanks to that, I met someone wonderful. Life is truly unpredictable.